Alright, well, I've just been inside, finished editing this episode. Realistically, I probably could have been done in 3 separate episodes if I had have actually worked out how to use the camera and film it properly. But anyway, I was going to do it, and then things would have been happening in the background. It would have just been absolute chaos and wouldn't have made any sense. So it is a bit longer than normal, but stick with it. We do get a fair bit done. Also, I've never really done it before, but if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing and drop a comment. Do all that stuff that people always ask. Yeah, so we'll get into it. Animal Engineering. On this episode, we are going to finally get the body mounted onto the chassis of the van. Like 3 years ago, I think I took it off its original chassis, and then obviously all the work that's gone on since then, and now I'm actually going to attach it to its new chassis. Been a hell of a long time coming. So, been on Fusion, and based off the chassis design, I've drawn up and I've pre-cut and welded up these little doodads. So using a HQ Holden body mount system. So this top one, so that goes in the top, and then bottom one comes and actually sort of slots over the top. So the body sits on this side, this will get welded to the chassis. So I've done 6 for now. There's 6 easy spots to get to, and will be another 4 later on, but for now the 6 spots I've picked should be able to secure the van into a solid enough spot. I'm going to have to actually start building some of the framework for the van as well to put some of these, but by the end we should be able to have the van mounted to the chassis and all the cross bracing and everything just gone for the first time in 3 years. That bracing's been in there a long time. It's going to be pretty awesome to see it just empty without shit and stuff going everywhere. So that is the plan. It's currently Friday night. I've just been to Funk Cider for work, so I have a few pints in me. Not 100% sure how much we'll get done for the rest of the day, to be honest, but I'm going to aim to get all 6 of these welded in. So, basically in several places around the van, these will just get welded into these corners, like so, nice and flush, and yeah, we'll just glue them in. I think it looks pretty good. So my initial plan was that I wanted to mount the body and have the fixings to the chassis not visible from underneath, but I don't think it's really going to be possible with all the voltage and nut situation. So I think this design just sort of flowing, and it's going to be the same, symmetrical, which is important to me on both sides of the chassis. Should look pretty good, and yeah, so long as it's the same throughout the whole chassis, if you're looking at from underneath, I think that should be really good. So I'll go through and we'll get them welded in, and then that's the easy part really. Once they're welded in, we've actually got to start trying to tie the body of the van in and start making some actual structure for the floor, which really the back half of the van is pretty square and flat and stuff, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. So we'll jam away, I'll get them welded in, we'll cut back and we'll start trying to nut out how we're going to actually start doing some framework for the van. Alright, well after 4 points and 4 stubbies. I have got all the body mounts welded into the chassis. Well, not all, I've got 6 that I made. They're the easy 6. One's at the front. I don't really have any structure in the place that I want to put them yet, but the 6 I have in good spots. So the 6 I've done are in good spots to mount things from, but this is what 4 pints and 4 stubbies looks like, welding. Really would have liked to got some more done, but Bears won. They got me. But now, at least I've got those 6 points in, so the next thing now I have to do is start looking at how I'm going to frame out the floor. So I need the fuel tank back in, get that set to the height it's going to be with some rubber like footings underneath the mounts, and then I'll get some 30 by 30 box. So basically I'll go 5mm above the tank and then shoot a level, laser level through with a 30mm box, and then start trying to work out how I'm going to connect that to the shell of the van first. Nice, and also in a way where I can get like a nice bead roll pattern in the floor. And then once I've got that welded in, so these uprights that sort of latch on for the doors, I'm going to replace them. That has to happen as well, like now, because while I've been banging away, rust has still been coming out of them, and really that's the only part of the van that hasn't been sandblasted and painted. Only other part aside from them is that centre pillar in the window. The inside of that, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but yeah, the inside of that has not been sandblasted, just because there hasn't been a part. Other than that, everything else in the van has been sandblasted and put into epoxy. So they need to get replaced now, because that ties into how I'm going to do the floor. One thing I do have to do is get the actuators for the doors though, work out where they're going to place in the doors, because these uprights will need a notch out for where the actuators are going to slide through. These doors are only like 35mm, which maybe what's that, 1.5 inch thick, and the actuators are 40mm, so 1 inch and 5/10,000 and 2/5/16. These uprights for the doors, get that nailed out, get them attached to the sills, work out how I'm going to do the boxing on the floor, box the floor out, and then work out how I'm going to attach it to these mounts I've got. Rightio, well, I've been out for a while. I went to Bunnings this morning and I got some 50 by 50 tube, so I chopped those other uprights out, and I've replaced them, put the new ones in. Also gone through, and I'll now have the first section of floor tubing in, which is pretty cool. So now we've actually got the height of the floor set. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and chop that lower section there out. That's just a bit of folded sheet metal. I'll cut that out and I'll put some of this tube in its place, tie that into the columns, all 3 columns there, nice and secure, and then I can come down off that and then over to this bit, box that in, and then I can do a tube going from that side to this side, which will tie into those body mounts down there. And then sort of work out how I'm going to go over the hump and to the back. Step forward, now I've got a first section of the floor, which is pretty cool. A couple more tubes and we should be able to actually get rid of this cross bracing. It's going to be pretty exciting. So we'll jam away, we'll get all that cut out and we'll join all that together. And then we should be able to start looking at doing some actual body mounts. Well, quick update. I've got those 2 chopped out that sort of folded sheet metal piece that was going along there, and I've replaced that with some SHS, some box tube. And then while I was at it, I actually removed this front section as well and put some RHS going down, so that'll be a much more solid place to mount the floor from. I didn't really want to go tacking and welding a floor just to that folded sheet metal stuff. And the bracing is gone, which is pretty awesome. So that's been in there for, yeah, probably a good 3 years. I was in there, I was contorting around it, and it was doing my head in. So I figured really everything's clamped in where it's got to go, so it didn't need to be there. And how good does it look without the bracing in there? So I think now I'm just going to get the fuel tank back in, so I can make sure that the structure I put in is going to miss that. It's a bit of a pain, the filler neck. The filler neck probably should be closer to the actual shell of the van than it is, but I'm not going to change it. And just for dropping the van in, I'm going to sort of lay this side out a little bit different. Body mount's done. I kind of think I need to do the tubs. Not too sure. That is looking really good without any cross bracing there. I'm super stoked with that. Alright, been jamming away. I think before I'd just done those bits there, so I've now got a bit of a frameage going on for a floor. Pretty simple little dealo. But I think now, before I move further back, I want to get some wheel tubs done, just so I kind of know where my other tubes have got to go, because I'll put them right up against the tubs. And I'll use them, I'll brace off them to actually hold the tubs in place, but I really need to do that first. Yeah, it's coming along pretty good, but yeah, I definitely feel that I need to get some rear tubs fabricated, just so that I can locate things and get them a little up and over, all situated and looking good. So we'll get into that. Okay, welcome to another episode. This is a bit of a milestone one for the van, this one. In this episode I am going to attempt to shape and form the rear wheel tubs. I'm going to try and do it just out of one big piece with the two flanges, and then I'll weld the sides in. So I've already been sort of at it, and you can see that is basically the profile I'm going for. I have added another 300 onto the back, so this will go all the way to the back of the van. So this will be by far the biggest single piece I have ever tried to make. It is going to be hard, like when I'm trying to shrink this bit, all of that material is going to be way out there, so it's going to be a struggle, I know that already, and this old man is probably going to sweat his whole off. So I've done a couple of little practice bits already. So I've sort of done this one. That's just a curve on shrinking, so that's not come up too bad. There was just very quickly a little bit of work on the planishing hammer after the shrinking, because it sort of tucked up a little bit, but a bit more work on the planishing hammer would get that better. So that proved that that was going to be possible with the gear I have. Now, the one I was more concerned about was where it curves the other way, because that's like a compound reverse curvy jobby, which is notoriously hard to do. So I had an attempt at doing that, and that's the same radius as that one. So same thing, quick little bit of work on the planishing hammer. Can still get that smoother with a bit more time, but that's a pretty aggressive reverse curve, and it shaped it, and what I need to do isn't anywhere near that sharp. So I feel as long as I can actually hold it and manipulate it, it should be doable. So what I got, just been through and cut out a sheet of steel. Now I was hoping by this stage, when I started doing the van, like the interior sheet metal and everything, they would have a gillo. Haven't quite got there yet. I'm still using a grinder, which is a pain in the ass. But this, that is the start of my fender flare. So you can see how big that piece is. Hence why I say it's going to be a nightmare. But at the moment it's flippy flopping around because there's no shape to it whatsoever. So to start off with, you can see I've got a bit of pipe over there on the bench. I'm going to clamp it down on that and try and manually bend the radius in. On the smaller pieces it was easy. Obviously this is much longer. So we'll give that a crack, and then we'll put in the pan brake and just put the straight 90 in. Right, you can see just with that first bend, much more solid. So now we'll go over to the pan brake and we'll tip another little flange on the other side, and then generally that'll be the profile I'm aiming to get, going all the way over the tyre and back to the rear of the van. Oh, I can tell this is going to be a nightmare. She's pretty heavy. Rightio, well, I'm already starting to think this is a bad idea. Possibly just wasted a lot of steel, but for reference, that pan brake does a 3 metre long sheet, so this is way taller than I am. So yeah, now it's just a matter of, on the shrinker, shrinking the crap out of it to get the shape we need. So we'll see how long this takes. So it is very hard, not gonna lie, just trying to hold it, and you'll be holding it and then you go to kick, but you've got to keep, luckily with this shrinker stretcher, it's got the handle on the top so you can adjust the height, so I'm sort of having to wind it up, move it, wind it back down, kick it, wind it up, move it, just because it's so hard to hold. But I'm gonna keep persevering with it. I think we might be able to get there. I did just try to put it in the planishing hammer, and I'm going to have to modify that because it's so long. When you try and planish this bottom corner down here, because it's so long, it's just going to crash into the ground. So I'm going to have to try and work out something there. It's way too late. I'll piss the neighbours right off if I fire that up tonight anyway. So I'm going to keep on jamming away and we'll get it roughed in. I think as it's getting roughed in and closer, it is getting somewhat easier, you know, like because the weight's coming in. I think when I do that end there, when I start doing that reverse curve, that could be quite hard because there's going to be a lot of weight out this side because it's all in that curl. But we'll keep cracking on. Yeah, so that's sort of trashed. I've decided now I'll just cut another piece, which you can see is considerably smaller. I don't really know what I was thinking. Absolute idiot, thinking that I was going to be able to manage that massive thing all by myself. So on the template, on my little template that I made, there is a bit of a straight section there. On the bead of the van, it sort of goes around, and then there is a slight straight bit there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in two pieces, and I'm going to do the join on the flat bit. That way I'm not going to have to try and blend a curve into each other. So we'll get stuck in, and this should be a lot easier to manage, and hopefully it shouldn't crash into the floor on the planishing hammer either. So we'll get stuck into this new piece and see how we go. Rightio, well, I've been at it for about an hour and a half, I would say. It's going a lot better having the smaller piece, much easier to manage. Now you can see I've got it sort of roughed in, pretty close to the template, not far off. This needs a little bit more shrinking here, but see it sort of tapers in. But I think for the most part, for the shrinking side of things, you can see it comes around here, shrinks, and now it's starting to go the other way. So I think I'm now going to switch to the stretcher, see if I can get that to kick around. Boop. And then can the other one, sometimes you've just got to call it. Yeah. Really, for the couple of hours of time of that, and it's $40 worth of steel. Really, the back half of that I can use to finish off this one as well. So it's going really good. I'm just going to rough it in, and then put it on the planishing hammer, because I think when I put it on the planishing hammer it's going to move around and do some funky stuff. But we'll now go to do the reverse curve, which on this top 90-degree flange, piece of piss. The other flange with the radius, that is a bit more tricky, I found from doing my test pieces. But overall, I'm very happy with how it's going. I've just gone through and started putting the little reversey-versey on there, and she's looking pretty good. My daughter was just in, thought I was making a slide. So this side with the bigger radius, for some reason, if you look down, see it's gone. It's just pulling a lot of material there. So I've just been through and marked this line. So basically, I'm just going to jump on the old planishing hammer here, and I'm going to planish around to that line. It's basically where the we call it bead, not really bead, the radius started. So I'll go through the planishing hammer now, try and smooth all that out, and then we'll see how well she's fitting to the template I made. Playing around on the planishing hammer. It's definitely not perfect. This is the bit where it comes back around, a little bit bumpy. This needs a bit more work to get it closer to the template now. But I think I'm just going to do a small tweak, get it close to the template, and I'll go back, do this again, and then probably just go backwards and forwards. And hopefully by the time it's all nice to the template, this situation hopefully will have sorted itself out. So when it's shrinking, it's losing all its arc. It's trying to just go flat, which I think mainly is because it can't stretch this. It seems to shrink a lot easier, which I guess is why they say reverse curves are notoriously hard. But slide on. Looks pretty good. So we'll keep mucking around. I don't think it's a complete loss. I want to try and get it as smooth as I can, but at the end of the day, the interior of the van will be getting painted, and there will be filler used in places around the dash and all that sort of stuff to make it look nice. I'm not going for like full-blown metal finish, and you can see that's not too ugly. I think I can live with that. So yeah, we'll keep toiling away, and yeah, hopefully have one done today. Okay, I've been jamming away for a while. After that last round of planishing, going back to the shrinker stretcher, even the slightest little touch, it was moving a lot. So I think when I do the next one, I might actually planish it out a lot sooner. It just seems to move a hell of a lot faster. Don't know why. But yeah, it's just the slightest touch and it was moving around. But I've now got it sitting to the template. It's pretty damn close everywhere really. Definitely close enough for this old bastard. So, side there. Pretty stoked with that. It is going to need a little bit of more work. Put this on with a hammer and dolly, as opposed to using the planishing hammer there. It's pretty aggressive and it's quite hard. You've got to try and keep it square with it. If you go on the piss, it just digs in and puts a dent, and then you've got to try and fix that dent, and then you make another dent, and then you've got to try and fix that dent, and so on and so on. So I think now I'm going to do the next little bit that goes off here and out the back. And I think I should be able to get that done today. That's a fair bit for a day, I think. That sort of inside. They should look pretty cool in there. I mean, realistically, that's enough for the inside of the van. But yeah, I wanted to go down and all the way out to the back, just so from under the van it looks good. Again, no one's ever going to be under there really looking, but at some point it has to go over the pits, and the better it looks, the more chances I've got of getting license plates on it, I feel. So we'll jam away and we'll do that bottom bit, which is just one little reverse curve, which hopefully shouldn't take too long, and then we'll look at getting it welded together, and then tomorrow we'll be able to knock out the other side. And then it will just be the infill pieces on the sides. Try and do some cool bead rolling and stuff there. I didn't do any bead rolling on this bit. Just from the test pieces, doing this shaping with that curve in there. It may have been alright with some beadage in here, but didn't really want to battle it, and I don't know if you can sort of see that scribe line. So from that line this way is really all you're going to see in the van, so it's only like a hand's width. Hand widths. I'll get stuck into this other bit. Right, well, I've been at it for a little bit. I've sort of got that roughly in place. It needs a little bit more notching up the top there, but it's getting there. See, it still does need a fair amount of work in here. It's a bit rumply and bumply, but now that I've got it sitting in there, my intention was to have it come down and then along the back there, but now that it's sitting there, I feel I'm just going to add maybe a little 200mm section there, just coming straight, so it'll come just past the exhaust there, and then that should be enough. If I swoop it down and past, then everything from the tyres is just going to go over the chassis there, so I think if I just bring it straight, that should be fine. So yeah, it does need a little bit more work. You see it's a bit bumpy. So also been busy and I've made a second one now. Spent a bit more time on this one, just tidying it up. It's still a bit bumpy there, but I've spent so much time on it. I got the rest of it a lot better. I sort of put it in the English wheel just going that way. I'm pretty sure I'm missing a wheel from the English wheel, like the high crown one, which would have allowed me to go that way as well. But just going that way has smoothed it out a fair amount. And I think I'm happy enough with that to call it. Pretty tricky piece to make, I must say. This radius here, getting that to bend and curve around has been a mission. It is a different shape than what it started off, just bending it over the pipe, but I am happy with that shape. This side, this flange here was just a 90. Piece of cake, that just moves wherever you want it to go. You just push down and it goes poof. Sometimes way too quick, gets off on you. But yeah, I've sort of planished that one's all nice and smooth. So this one is done. So we'll get the other one out now. We'll put it on the English wheel. We'll smooth that one out completely as well. And then we'll be able to notch this one, get that in. And then start trying to work out where the hump's going to be and how we're going to do the infill pieces. One thing I am thinking now that it's in there is I'm pretty sure you can see a lot more of it than I was expecting. It's quite big and flat, so I think I'm just going to might do two just simple beads up and over, just very light, faint ones. Nothing crazy, but just to break up that big flatness a little bit. There you have it. That is both sort of main shape of the tub bits are in, clear coat on. It's got a few clear coats holding it on there. Now you can see, I think you can see that it's like kicked up. Now to get it straight and level, we can push it down and it's actually compressing that foam in there. If you look down the side of the van, I was really going to show it up on camera, but there is a bit of a bubble there. So I actually had a comment on one of the older videos, probably only a week ago actually, regarding that foam, and he sort of suggested that it would absorb moisture and rust out along there. So I wasn't super concerned about it because there was sort of some rubbery, it was more like a carpet underlay stuff there before, and those panels are in epoxy in behind there, but I'm going to do what he suggested. I'm going to remove that foam that will allow that guard to come in, and basically I'm going to panel bond the skin to that bar. So I think that's a good plan. We'll run with that, and then yeah, that obviously that little bubble is kicking that up, so when I push down on that, I don't know if I'll be able to see it. Don't really see that while I was wobbling around. But yeah, it's compressing that foam. Same on this side. This side's a lot flatter. But yeah, so that's the next mission. We'll get that foam out. That way I can get that closer, and really now I need to do my centre structure with the arch. So then I can translate that arch over to the side panels that are going to go into here, and work out my beads from there. But first sheet metal of the floor is in temporarily, so we'll get stuck in, we'll do that, and then we'll start working out this centre floor structure. Fast forward a few days, I've been in the shed for a few days, but what I did do, you see, got a bit of tube clamped on the outside of the van there. and I've been through and used some super high strength adhesive. So I used basically a whole tube on each side, so hopefully it should be tickety-boo. So yeah, now we can get these clamps off, and we should be able to see, hopefully it should say where it is. It's actually made the side of the van a lot straighter, which is good. I want to try and do up on the top on that side, because there is a bit of a bubble. You can sort of see there's a bit of a bubble up there where the window used to be. So we'll get them off, and then in theory these tubs should hopefully a lot flatter. Put them back in. See that one on that side, that's pretty good. That's within about half a degree, but this one on this side, it's come about 1.5 degrees better than what it was, but nowhere near what I was hoping to get out of it. Yeah, so really it's going to be a matter of get it back out, double check it with the template that I made. So the template should be spot on. So I'll do that, put the template back on it, and then make any little tweaks if we need to. I'm guessing that we do. And then put it back in and should be good. But in there, I think I'm definitely probably going to put a couple of beads along the top of here just to break up that flatness. Yeah, looking pretty good. So I've also rolled up this bit of tube here, so that will be going up over the diff. Probably just follow those two there, come up and over the diff, and then on the side of the wheel tubs I'll just bend some sheet metal and put in the shrinker stretcher to follow the profile of that so the sheet can go across, which will make more sense later on. Also going to come basically straight down there rather than going all the way to the back of the van. Rightio, well, been jamming away for a while, sort of doing a lot of measuring and double checking and trying to work out what's going on with this tub on this side. And what it is the wall on that side is actually bowed out a little bit, which is making the top tip over. I think I've got a solution for it. There is a bit of flex in the wall, so I think by the time I actually secure that into the floor and everything, and then I'll do the join from the tubs to the outer wall, it should pull it in. Seems to be enough movement that it will do that when I need to. I've also been through, so got the first little centre rib in there. It's a nice gentle hump. I think it goes up about 55 mil, so was that about 2 inches? Probably could have got away with a smaller one and then just made some little like hat things to go over the shock towers there, but I think that's fine. In the centre of it I can still just clear my head on the roof. But I think now I'm going to turn my attention to I'm going to do these rear body mounts. So we'll get stuck into that, get these rear body mounts done, and then that's the first part of actually securing the van body to the chassis done. And then once I've got the next two sort of ribs in, I can do the next two body mounts forward. But it's getting there. It's just a lot of things that have to happen. But yeah, once I get the body mounts done, I get the next two ribs go, then I can project that across to some cardboard on the tub and work out my beads. Also, having this rib up a bit higher, the tubs aren't going to stick out as much, so they're not going to be as offensive, which will be good. Been playing around the computer, the old Fusion, and made a little bracket up. Now unfortunately I'm sort of setting the height of the van with this bit of RHS here, which is sitting underneath this plate, which does need to come off, but has to stay there until I get this other thing welded in. Also, when I took the measurement, I compressed this rubber down. Otherwise, if I put it on now and then I compress it down, it's actually going to bring the whole body down, which will make it lower than the chassis, which is no bueno. So I'm going to have to lift the body up. I'm going to have to lift the body up so I can get that on, and then bring it down, rattle it up, and then I should be able to weld it in place. Now, I am going to remake this. So the sheet metal thing in Fusion puts these like weird relief things in, which I'll be honest, I don't really understand, because you always end up with a big gap in the corner, which I don't like. So I'm going to chuck this one in the bin because I don't like it. I think the overall design is alright and it should be strong enough, but I was going to try and redo it without that ugliness there. Okay, well I don't really know where I ended up yesterday, but now I've got the 3 ribs going up and over, and another body mount there, another one over there, and then 2 at the back. I'm pretty good. It's now mounted in 4 spots to the chassis, which is pretty awesome. So the next step now is to get the tubs back in, get them all sitting nice and level, and then build some supports out from this structure that I've just put in, just to hold them square. They are sort of curled in a little bit, but I need to get them fixed into their final position so that when I do the template up with the side for the beads and that, I get like a real accurate one. So I think that's what we'll do now. We'll get the tubs back in, get them all situated where they're going to be in their final resting place, and then we'll be able to start looking at making some side panels up for them. Quick update, we've got the tubs sort of in there with some little brackets. They're sort of clear coated in place for the time being, just to get them sitting where they need to be, just so I can move forward with other little bits and pieces. I don't know if you can sort of see, I've chamfered the top corners off there just so it clears the frame there. Up in there you can sort of see that little filler piece. It sort of comes in a bit, but at right height it's miles out of the way, and when you air out, the tyre sort of cambers in, it sort of leans away from that. But you can see this side, that fits really good, but on this side you can see that there's a slight gap, but I do have a plan for that. I'd always like the view from underneath the van, nice and flat, everything's good. So the way I sort of, this light's in the way. The way I sort of tackled that basically was I made a template and I put it up on the inside, and then I fully welded it on the inside. Similar to how I done the tail lights, I sort of welded all the way around there. This went past it, welded all the way around there, and then I came on the inside and basically focus. Yeah, see. Yeah, basically just ground back to where that weld fillet was so that you can get a nice finish on the inside. It's just the easier way of doing it. So next on my hit list now is I want to get this bit and basically just go straight down. Just return that, I'll make that nice and level, trim it, and I'll bring that just straight down like that, do that, and then that'll give me a little piece here, and then my tub sides will sort of come along there and then up. I think this is probably going to end up being a pretty long episode. Not really 100% sure where I actually started with this one at the moment. I don't think I even had the body mounts welded to the chassis, I think. So I'm going to have to edit the crap out of this, but it's getting there. This has been, I think I'm probably a few weeks of like after work and weekends to this point, and I'm hoping by the end of this weekend, it's Thursday now, so I'm hoping by the end of Sunday I can have these tubs actually finished. Not fully welded in, but just actually fabrication wise finished. Alright, well, I've got a little returny bit there. Still need to do a little bit of a trim. You can see it gets a bit tighter there. I've got to go through, clean all the weld up. But pretty much the next stage now is, I don't know if it's really going to show up on camera. Yeah, I think you can see that. It's got a bump there. There's a few, a lot of it's not too bad, but there's a few areas where it's just not as smooth. That's pretty good there. But there's a few little random bumps that I want to try and get out. And then also go through and just clean this edge up a bit, get it so it's not as wonky. Try and get it somewhat smooth. Try not to piss my neighbours off as much as possible. So that'll be a Saturday morning job. We'll knock all them out and then better start putting some side panels into these things. Basically it's just side panels. I'll do those beads on the top of these bits. I don't think I'm going to put any beads in the sides. If you can really sort of see, that's that bar there, and the top of the top there, it's not actually that much. I think it may look like he's just putting a bead in for the sake of putting a bead in. Anyway, we'll get the cardboard on there, see what it looks like. I think we'll do that and then shape up some angle just to tack it around the tub for the side panels inside the van to screw onto. Well, it is now the following Friday. Last Saturday, or the weekend, last weekend, just escaped me doing other stuff. So I haven't really had much of a chance to get out in the shed, unfortunately, but I did manage to make up some templates and then I converted that into some steel for the side pieces. So that's all notched out. I'm just going to go from the other side, take the wheel off and scribe around where that outer tub piece is, and then I can weld them in. I have decided on the little template I made, I'd use that bit of square tube there and mark the line, and really there's only about yay much above the floor, so I've decided I'm not going to do any beading. I'll do a bead along the bottom just to give it a bit of rigidity, but other than that this is going to be smooth. I think it should look pretty good once it's all blocked off and filled up and painted later on down the track. So we'll get into that. I'll mark that out and then we'll cut back when she's all tacked in. Alright, well I've got that all trimmed up and tacked in. It's all fitting pretty nice. I'll go through, do one last sort of round of tidying up and sort of hammer and dollying. Try and get that a little bit better than it is. It is still not the best, but you know, weld all the way up and over. Now, I haven't done the bead along here yet. I've done a little test. I'm pretty sure once it's fully welded I can do the bead and the bead roller, and that way I can come all the way around the back, around there, and up and over. So we'll nut in and get this welded up. Oh, well, got that all welded up. See, just done a whole lot of little welds, keeping it cool. Now you can see, I don't know if it's going to show up, but that has, it's kind of dished in. So I'm going to go over to the planching hammer now, planch this weld out, because I think it's actually squashed. It's actually squashed that whole guard in on the side a bit. So I'll go hammer that weld out and try and get that flat. Let's see how we go. Audio. Well, with the power of editing, I now have the other side done. Not perfect, but that one's there. Possibly a bit dark in here to really see. Ooh. That's probably one of the most full-on little sheet metal projects I've tackled, I would say. It was a lot of work. I think by the time the floor goes up, not having any beads in them, they should look pretty slick. I think it should tie in with the van. Yeah, I don't know. I like putting beads and stuff, but in this situation, I felt that it didn't really need it. Now, I haven't gone along and done the bead all the way around the bottom like I was talking about. I'm still undecided because I think if I do that, it's going to shrink it and twist it and pull it in. And I think by the time I actually weld the floor in, that should all be fairly solid anyway. So for now, I'm just going to leave it. We shall ponder it. But yeah, very happy with how they've come up. As I say, they are still a bit bumpy, but I've probably spent a good 30 minutes on that one. And I'll be honest, I didn't really see much of an achievement after half an hour. It's bloody hard to reach in my short little arms. So another thing I'll be playing around with in the background is this bad boy. So that is sort of developed from the 3D scans I had done, which is a future project. In there, little hole. Yeah. Sure, some years might be able to guess what that is. But that has been many mornings playing around on Fusion with the scans and sort of learning how to do it, trying to perfect it to get it not looking all lumpy and bumpy. So, I'm not sure when this will actually come into effect. Once we start doing the front of the van, we'll to print some better ones out of some ABS. This is just like a prototype type one and turned out pretty good. I think we'll leave it there. Pretty stoked. First sheet metal of the floor is in the van. Yeah, if you've made it this far in the episode, I'm assuming this is going to be a fairly long one. It's been going on for I think about 3 or 4 weeks. So as always, if you have made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.